G'day, Aussie Bonsai Bloke here, going. Today, hey buddy, today I'm going to be working on me almond tree, me fruiting almond tree. I'm going to be repotting it, cutting a few branches off, but in general leaving it pretty much how it is. I've got a few big decisions to make in the future on this thing because there's some massive inverse taper on this side branch here, caused by having too many branches here when I first set the tree up, and also I had a branch bender here, and where it put pressure on the branch it's created callus tissue and really fattened it up, so it's not ideal, but I am definitely going to let it flower first because there's a lot of flower buds on here, so it should look pretty good when it flowers, so I'll leave it on for that and then maybe give it a hard cut back once it's flowered. So first thing I'll do is I'll cut back some of the branches now that I'm not gonna, that are either dead or too long like these ones, and then I'll repot it after that. So I mean there's a few dead branches around. I'll cut this one, it's dead. Just cut some of the dead ones off. You can tell pretty easily on the almond because they sort of shrivel up, whereas some trees it's very hard to tell. These are actually quite easy to tell. So there's a few sections in here. So yeah, I'm not going to go too hard because like I said I want to keep some flower buds, see if I can get a good show of flowers for you this year. I collected this tree from my parents' house out the ground. It was a root sucker, I believe. Probably, I'm going to say about 6 years ago. And I'm actually quite excited about this lower branch here because this is the first year this lower branch has shown any great sign of life. It's really struggled in the past, so put on a lot of growth on that branch this year, which is good. So hopefully that'll become a main branch. I think this will end up being the top here and this here will be all discarded, but I'm going to let it flower as I said. Not sure. Anyway, let's get to repotting it. I had a bit of a feel around. This pot's got a lip on it, so that sort of makes it hard to get your trees out the pot. As you can see, I've let the moss grow up the trunk too far. I pulled some of the moss off the trunk. And it's actually hurt the bark a little bit. The bark started to flake off, so I'll have to be careful for that. Might firm back up. Might get off this turntable, it makes it a bit wobbly. So yeah, got this tree, one of the original trees I've got. It looks really good in flower, but out of flower it doesn't look very good at all. Just the whole shape and structure of it's not very good. So yeah, it's pretty low quality tree, but in flower, like I said, I quite like it in flower. And I have eaten some almonds off here, believe it or not. So I've gone around the tree. There's a drainage screen. Another drainage screen. So you can see I went around the tree, and what that does is it cuts all the outside roots. You can see under here, all these roots were tucked away underneath that lip, which would have made it impossible to get out. So you just sort of cut that edge, which is good for the tree anyway. It reinvigorates the root system and allows you to get out the pot. Oh, excuse me, got a bit of a cold at the moment, so struggling, but here's what it is. Right, so after that we're going to get our little root hook out, if I can find it. Not sure what I did with the bloody thing here. And I'm just going to clear away the top of the soil here. Now the almond trees actually in their root system, they actually get something which in the vineyard we call crown gall. Creates these lumps all over the roots, big lumps. Sort of like a pussy sort of a growth on the root system. It's not too bad, they don't seem to get affected too much by it, but keep an eye on it. Where you can see real big ones, you can sort of take it off a bit. What are you doing there, dog, eh? You having a sniff around, are you, mate? So I'll just take this top off. This is all that bloody Irish moss, and I don't want to keep that, so I'm going to discard all this moss. Just has too much of a root system, this moss. Sort of interferes with the health of the tree a bit. So I'll just pull that off the sides. And then I'll probably go outside and hose this off, I reckon. Give it a good hose off. Actually, this root system is actually quite compact. It's not really allowing me to get in there very well. So it shows that it's quite healthy. I haven't watered these trees for a fair while, but we've had a fair bit of rain, so they're quite wet. Another 7 mil last night. Now that the drought's finally broke, we seem to just get more rain all the time, which is good. Bring it on. So I'll just keep going around the tree like this a bit. It's like a native yam in there. What do you reckon there, pup? Good? Yeah? Good? Good? Yeah? Good? And then underneath, I'll do the same thing as I just give it a bit of a scratch underneath. Not too much, don't want to tear too many roots, just enough to, you know, invigorate it again, make it grow again. But not enough that you rip out all the roots and it's got nothing to shoot the flower buds with. Okay, I'm going to take it out now and wash it. And then I'll get back to you once I've washed the roots out. Is that it? Choke. Choke. Where's the choke, bud? Maybe here somewhere. G'day, welcome back. As you can see, got the old fire extinguisher, got the old fire hose out, cleaned out the roots. As you can see, you get these, I call them crown galls, that's what we call them in the vineyard. These growths on the roots, just pick a few out if they bother you. Another big one on the back here. and they sort of just grow on the roots. There's not a lot you can do about them. Sort of adds to the character in a way. There's nothing really in there, just sort of like a soft, watery sort of thing. Anyway, so I've cleaned the roots out. Just pick the odd weed out of there that I can find. Easier to pick the weeds out now than later once they shoot. Okay, pretty happy with that. So the bark hasn't been affected too much. There's actually a new layer of bark underneath anyway. A little bit here's gone, but there is some bark forming underneath, so it's not too bad. Really shouldn't let moss grow up the trunk like that too much. If it does, you can use straight vinegar. Put some neat vinegar on and that'll get rid of it. But if you do, just make sure you paint it just on the moss and don't let it go into the soil, because otherwise it could hurt the tree. But just on the moss is okay. So next thing, put my screens in my pot. Then I'm going to put some Debco bonsai mix in here. I'm going to use the same pot. Pretty happy with this pot. Looks pretty good with the tree, I reckon. So I'll put some of that in. Just to cover the bottom, just a thin layer on the bottom. And then I'll just sort of work out exactly which way I want the front. Probably work it out for when I cut this branch off, if that's what I'm going to do. And if that's the case, just have a look up here with you. Got to make sure you get this right, because if you don't, sort of you have to look at it for a fair while. So I can either lean it forward for after I cut them off, but then the back roots do stick up a fair way if you do that. Or I have to decide whether I want to live with it looking like that. Okay, so having a bit of trouble. Okay, so after a bit of a few thoughts here, I thought, well, if I have it this way, cut that off, that'll be all gone, and then lean it forward that way. It's just too much angle for these back roots. There's no way I can get that in the soil. So I figure if I actually spin it around to that sort of an angle there, and then tilt it slightly more, I can actually have these roots here looking at you. See this gall stuff? It's weird stuff. And I can have these roots here looking at you. And lean it forward, and that's by no means a stretch to try and get that in the pot. And then when I cut this here off and then develop the tree here, it'll make sense. Although it does, you do see the big scar from when I first cut it, but it has healed up pretty well, and it looks starting to look pretty natural now anyway, so that's okay. Another one of these galls, I'll try and get it off. It won't take long for it to heal up these messes where I've cut it. They don't seem to affect the tree too much, but they're a bit ugly. But then, like I say, it adds to the interest of the root base, as long as it doesn't hurt the tree. So I think I will. I think I'll put it up like that. So from this side it's going to look pretty funny. But that'll be okay. Once I cut that branch off, it'll look good. But I'm going to leave that branch on, like I said, for the flowering. Alright, I'll get to potting it up. So I'm not going to put any wires on the mesh because the tree holds the mesh in there pretty well anyway. Just put a little bit more soil under the back. Yeah, this video I've been doing a lot of humming and hawing, but that's because I'm not quite sure where I'm going to take the tree in the future, and I want to try and make sure that I've made up my mind before I pot it, because it'll be in this pot for another few years, and I'll have to live with whatever decision I make today. That's why I've been doing a bit of humming and hawing and thinking. So anyway, pretty much decided now it's going to be the front. I could lean it off the side of the pot a bit. No reason why we can't lean it out the side a bit, or I can go back the other way and then have it sit. Maybe I'll pot it sort of in the middle and then have it hang near the edge of the pot. Give it a bit more of a dramatic feel. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. Maybe slight more lean. Pretty happy with that. So now I'm just going to fill up the soil around it. It's not really a lot of air pockets once again. Sort of left some of the old soil into the heart of the root ball underneath. I've left some of the old soil in there. So because of that, I can pretty much just put soil around the edges. And then just working it with my fingers, because like I say, there's no real air pockets or anything to work it into. And then the roots will just grow back out into this. And it should be all good. At work today, I was in the vineyard and thought I'd get a bit of moss in the vineyard here, as you can see. I'll just go around the vineyard collecting moss. Doesn't take long, a few minutes. Moss everywhere underneath the vine, so collected a bit of moss. Now we'll chuck it on the tree. I'll just go and clean the tree first though, and then I'll chuck the moss on. Cheers. Okay, well, we got the tree pretty well cleaned up. I can see where the roots are, where they stop and start. So now I'll just simply go in there and put some moss, which will go in between the roots, and hopefully show off some of those roots that are in there, whereas before it was buried too deep. Now I'll be able to expose it, which will be good. So see how she goes. Alright, I'll just finish mossing it and then I'll get back to you. G'day, welcome back. Well, as you can see, we've got the tree fully repotted, fully mossed up. Managed to find a few different types of moss in here, which is good, gives it a bit of contrast, and also exposed the roots there, so that's good. I've cut back here, so that'll shoot out again and create some better branching. And keep in mind that side of the tree is going to go, but we're going to let it flower first. So I'll make sure to show you the tree when it flowers, and also when I cut it back. No worries. Cheers for watching Aussie Bonsai Bloke. Please like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers. I'll give you a spin on the way out. Cheers.